So for those of you who are just joining us or watching the recording, welcome to this week's Q&A. I was just about to tell the girls something very important, which is I wanted to thank them for, I've had a couple of questions recently about these resistance band leggings that seem to be making an appearance in the fitness market at the minute. And whenever people were asking me about them, they were saying, you know, what about resistance band leggings? What do you think? I was like, resistance band leggings? Like what? Like it really just didn't make sense to me. I couldn't even work out in my head how they would be. So I had enough questions about them here and on Instagram that I went and looked them up. And I felt so incredibly strongly about them that I made a video. It's not a favorable video. I'm just going to give you a little heads up. And I'm going to post it on my Instagram in about 3 hours. I already posted it on TikTok. And yeah, resistance band leggings, like seriously, guys, like don't. If you want compression leggings, then by all means go ahead. But seriously, I don't know how a couple of silicone strips down the outside of your leggings are going to make you work harder or increase your muscle mass or help you burn fat more. The claims that they're making on their website are like diabolical, like increases insulin sensitivity. How the fuck can a legging with silicone printed on it increase insulin sensitivity? It literally blows my mind what people get away with. Now, I know if anyone asked them, what they would say is, oh, well, once you increase muscle mass, then you increase insulin sensitivity, which is true, but that's not what it says on the website. And the poor gullible females who, no one in this program, of course, but who really have no clue, who think that buying a pair of $100 leggings, because I think that's what they cost, $90 leggings is going to help them to build more muscle and increase their insulin sensitivity. It is literally preying on the weak. So I was very incensed when I saw them. Because you know my feelings, like you don't need supplements, you don't need creatine, you don't need leggings, you just need to show up consistently every single day. You need to consistently train with weights 3 to 5 days a week, consistently do cardio 3 to 5 days a week, count your calories and do it for a boringly long period of time and your body will change. But nothing else in the interim is going to increase your results, unfortunately. So you can go and watch the video and show it some love when it's posted on Instagram in 3 hours. The other thing I wanted to tell you was, if you see things like that on the internet, I would love for you to send them to me. So see all the latest fads and crazes, and like if you're looking at supplements or miracle body creams, or like I have so many ideas now about, I just want to tear these companies to shreds, you know, like all of these body cream companies claiming that I keep seeing one coming up my Instagram, if you use this miracle body cream, and they literally show a before and after that is so heavily photoshopped, it is unbelievable. And they're obviously paying people to write results. Women are like, I'm 71 years of age and my skin looks like it did when I was 25. Really? No. So yeah, there's so much false advertising and marketing out there, and I'm incensed, and I'm on a thing about it now. So I want you to send them to me. Okay, send them to me on Instagram or post them in the group or tag me. But I really want to see these videos now so that I can start making kind of more put down videos about them and trying to educate women that really all they need to do is show up, lift weights, count their calories, and be very, very patient. Exactly what you guys are doing. I know I'm preaching to the converted, which is why I'm asking for your help. Okay, right. Let's get started with the questions. Monica wins. Better to pose with or without heels, and height of heels if that is better to show off our results. Honestly, heels, if you wear heels, it's going to make your butt look better. And that's the bottom line. Your feet don't have to be in the picture. Okay. People always ask me this. They say, do my feet have to be visible in the picture? And I always say, well, unless your feet are particularly shredded, then they don't need to be in the photo. Okay. Unless the judges are going to go, oh my God, look at her feet. Like, I mean, her glute's great, like, but it's the feet that have done it for me. Give her first place. Like, I don't think the judges have ever looked at anyone's feet before. So you can cut your feet off at the ankles if you don't want your heels to be in it, but definitely heels. It's like when you put on a pair of high heels yourself, right? When you put on high heels, what happens? You know, your legs elongate, your quads pop a little, your glutes lift. That's why fitness athletes wear heels on the stage whenever they're showing off their body, because they elongate your legs, they lift your butt, they make you look better. And really, we want to see a phenomenal comparison between the before and the after. And here's the other thing you have to remember. The reason why I run these competitions, this is Kim just telling it like it is. The reason I run these competitions, yes, is to give you all phenomenal results and to, make your bodies look better. educate and inspire women all over the world, all of that good stuff. But the other reason is I'm running a business, okay? The bigger my business gets and the more money the company makes, the more we can spend on advertising, the more women we can reach, the more lives we can change. So the better the before and after pics look, the better it is for my business. So whenever people say, I see people in the group sometimes and they say, well, I'm not going to wear heels or put tan on, and I'm not even going to do my hair and makeup because I want the after photos to be a true reflection of my progress. And we always go, well, you're not going to do very well. And it's like, and I hate to say it, but it is true. It's like, you know, we want to see, like, so if you can imagine the judges, like, we're going to have about 300 entries probably for this. And the judges are going to be like, they have them all in a big ream, okay? And they're scrolling through the ream. So the 4 photos are side by side. We give them all to the judges and we're like, narrow this down to your top 50. That's how we first do it. So the judges narrow it down to about the top 50. Then they go into a different pile. And then from the top 50, they get narrowed down to about the top 20. And then from the top 10, 20, they fight it out for the top 10. They vote, actually. So if you can imagine, they're scrolling, right? 300 entries. Scroll, scroll. You know how whenever you're scrolling through social media, something has to catch your attention. It has to be boom. Either a video catches it or a photo catches it or something. It makes you stop. It's called scroll stopping. You want to make your photos scroll stopping. So if you try to make your before and your after photo look identical, it's not going to catch the judge's eye. I'm not saying that they're not going to stop and look at it. And if your transformation is truly like, oh, wow, then of course it's going to catch their eye. But you want to make the judges stop. That's the first thing you want to do, right? I'm just telling you it like it is. Like there's no judge is going to, like these people, they're very, very busy people who run their own businesses, professional bodybuilding judges and competitors themselves. They're not going to microscopically go through every single photo, spending 10 minutes in detail through 300 of them. It would just take too long. So they do a first scroll and a second scroll, but you want to make your photo go bum. So you want, like, don't wear the same bikini in the before and after. Wear something different, okay? Wear like a red one before and a yellow one after. Like, you want to make it pop. You want to have your tan on. Hopefully you're pasty white and look terrible in your first one, right? Like stand there like looking like really sad, and you know, you've all taken them anyway, so it's too late now. You can smile, of course you can, it's fine. But we love it whenever we see someone who just looks like they're a bit fed up and, you know, sad with their body in the before, and then they're after, they're like, ta-da! You know, they got this like massive smile, they got their hair and makeup done and their tans on, and they're looking and feeling fabulous. Like the photo looks like they you know, how we imagine they feel in the inside. That's what we want to see. So get your tan on, get your heels on, get your hair did, as we call it here in Northern Ireland, right? Get your hair did means get your hair done. But, you know, make your after photos look fucking incredible. Have someone like come in and paint you with like gold body paint, right? To make your muscles pop, whatever it takes. There's a lot of money on the line here. I would not be, you know, like standing in my before and after going, well, I'm not going to change my after. And we do get this sometimes on social media. People are like, well, I think that these are good results, but I would like to see her standing in exactly the same pose as before. And we always go, why? Like, what difference would it make? Well, it would give her a true reflection of results. We're like, the girl lost 35 pounds in 4 weeks. I think you can fucking see the true reflection of her results. Like, seriously, you know, it always drives me bananas whenever you get people on social media like, oh, well, I'm going to completely discredit this because in the after photo, she has tan on and she has her makeup done. So these results are not real. We're like, yeah, people will see what they want to see at the end of the day. That's always the way it is. And if you don't want to believe that these results are possible because you've never had them for yourself, or seen it, you know, happen in other people, then that's fine. I can't change your mind. But for us, the judges want to see, boom, they want to see before and after. So get, like, you're glamming up for a good night out. And honestly, once you've taken those after photos, you know what I suggest you do? Get yourself out on the town and go and show off that body that you bloody worked the last 8 weeks for. Go and have a couple of cocktails if that's your thing, or go and, you know, go to a yoga class and sip tea if that's what you prefer. Whatever is your jam, you get out there and you show off that body because you worked hard for it. Monica Wint, speaking of posing, our back shots, better with or without a top, really doesn't matter. Back whether really doesn't matter. Whatever works for you. So you just take lots of different angles and just submit whatever one you think is the best, because really we're not looking at your outfits, we're looking at your transformation. Ivana Potnik. I've noticed the exercises feel easier and more manageable now, but my glutes burn way more than before, especially during the bridges. I'm hoping that's a good sign of muscle growth rather than just my body plotting revenge. Does it make sense that bigger or stronger glutes might burn more when they're properly activated? So no, your glutes aren't burning more because, well, yes. So your glutes will burn more when they're properly activated. So with Amy, whenever she was doing the hip thrusts, I noticed that And I did let her off with it in the first couple of weeks because she was doing a lot of workouts, right? But as we kind of progressed, I was like, okay, Amy, I want you to push your knees out wider and I want you to walk your feet forward a little bit. So I noticed that she was in a much shorter stance and she didn't have her knees pushed out wide enough in the glute bridges or in the hip thrusts. So I made her push her knees out and walk her feet forward a couple of inches. And she was like, oh my God, the difference was unbelievable. So once your form gets better, you absolutely 100% can make that exercise harder. I was doing hip thrusts on Friday in my home gym and I loaded the bar up pretty heavy. Now, I didn't go as heavy as I would normally go. I think I had 325s on each side, which is, what's that, 75, 150 plus 170 kilos on the bar, which is, I'm feeling from a calculator here, just in pounds, 170 multiplied by 2.2, 374 pounds, right? Now, you might be like, Kim, that's really heavy. But for me, that's not heavy because well, it is heavy, but I would have thrusted about 550 pounds, okay, in my heyday for about 10 reps. But it was incredible how strong I was. Now, in the beginning, whenever I was doing the sets, I really focused on the lockout at the top. So I slowed it down and I locked it out at the top, right? So I thrust, held for a second, slow, thrust, hold for a second. So I slowed my reps down. I artificially slowed them down as the weight was getting heavier through the sets. And then in my top set, I had 370 kilos on the bar, 370 pounds on the bar. And I didn't focus as much on the lockout. I focused on just completing the rep and really getting to the full top of the range. And what I found was that my glutes were in agony for the next 2 days because I had made it harder. I used to just get under that bar whenever I was just training in the gym and not training the way I'm training now. And I used to just thrust for 10 reps. Didn't matter what the reps looked like, if they were messy, full lockout, didn't really think about my feet position, nothing. My goal was just to get the 10 reps with a really heavy weight. Whereas now my whole goal has changed now that I'm in menopause and I don't want to kind of just beast it in the gym anymore. I want to do everything with mindfulness. And so I walked my feet out. I made sure they were even. I walked them a little bit further. I made sure they were in front of my knees and I made sure I got lockout at the top. So the integrity of the rep was more important to me than just getting the rep done. And honestly, my glutes were so sore. So what you're saying is true. There is a way that you can make it really, really, really hard if you want. Or you can just load up that bar and thrust and you can say, yay, I did 550 pounds today. You know, but did you really? Did you lock out at the top? Were your feet in front of your knees? Were your knees nice and wide? Was your stance long enough to really activate the glutes? The answer may be no. So you can make it harder for sure. And definitely with better form, you probably are making it harder, which is making the glutes burn. But your glutes burning is just a buildup of lactic acid. So you get a metabolic burn in the glutes and you start to shake up the metabolites. You start to cause trauma, minor trauma within the muscle tissue, and you get a lactic acid buildup. And that's what causes the burn. But also what's happening in the sessions is we're making the sessions shorter and more intense. So the glutes are being loaded and loaded and loaded and loaded with hardly any rest whatsoever. And that's what's making them burn. So the burn is actually causing more metabolic adaptation and more muscle growth. Will you still be sore at this stage? Probably not. I mean, you may find, you're a bit like, you might feel like you bend over one day and you might be like, I definitely felt that when I bent over. I know I've worked, but you're not going to be sore the way you were in the beginning. It's only if you drastically change up your training that you'll be sore. I said to Natasha, my PA, whenever I came in the office, I said, I dropped something on the floor. Was it yesterday or on Saturday night? I think it was on Saturday night. I dropped a tissue on the floor, a Kleenex on the floor, and I went to pick it up and then I thought, do you know what? And I didn't. I just left it there because it was actually too painful to bend over to pick it up. That's how sore my glutes were. And that was just because I increased my weight, I increased the time under tension, and I changed up what I was doing. But they hadn't been sore at all from doing the ButtCamp workouts. So your glutes will adapt. You won't have the same delayed onset muscle soreness, but you will have a burn because of the higher metabolic training that we're doing. Whitney Ray. Kim, this is my 4th program, but my first time asking a question. Well, there's a first time for everything, Whitney. You're a virgin question asker. I'm loving ButtCamp 3 and the support has been amazing. Can you share some information on how you've structured the meal plans for the last 2 weeks? I've noticed, I already answered this. I'm sorry. She says she thought the protein had decreased, but it hasn't. So let me just answer this for all of you. So the macros stay the same the whole way through the program. So the macros being the balance, the percentage balance of proteins, carbs, and fats. So we don't alter and make like the protein less and the carbs more. We just reduce the calories, which means that the macros reduce overall. So maybe you were getting 130 grams, just pulling out of the hat, 130 grams of protein last week. Maybe this week you're only getting 120 grams of protein, not because we've reduced the protein, but because we've reduced the calories, which means that the balance of protein has also reduced. So that's what I responded to her in the message. Jennifer Kemp. Kim, thank you so much for your ButtCamp workout. I'm not doing the monetary challenge. I have many food intolerances and I've been doing my own eating program. While I'm trying to follow your macros, I often have a hard time getting in the amount of protein shown on the plan. I'm wondering what the minimum amount of protein you would recommend would be to tone and build muscle. So here's the thing, Jennifer, that I will say that a lot of people won't say. There's a whole massive push at the minute on the internet. You know how I feel about videos on TikTok, even though I do make them myself. There's a whole massive push at the minute on the internet for protein, protein, protein. You have to eat protein, you have to eat protein, you have to eat protein, you have to eat more protein. And honestly, once someone starts saying it, then it just becomes an echo chamber and everyone starts saying it. I genuinely do not believe that protein is as important as everybody says it is. Protein is important to keep you fuller for longer. And the reason why there's a whole epidemic of you must eat more protein happening on the internet at the minute is because a lot of people are if they start prioritizing protein, then they stop prioritizing junk food. That's usually what happens. Whenever you start focusing on eating more protein, you become more aware of what you're eating, and what gets measured gets managed. So when someone brings awareness to what they're eating, then they will tend to manage it more, which means they'll eat less junk food. I coached a client a few years ago, and I could not get this client to change. I couldn't get her to check in. I couldn't get her to stay with the meal plan. She kept falling off the wagon. And so I got her one day. I said to her, right, I'm going to try something here. I don't want you to change what you're eating. I don't want you to follow a meal plan. I don't want you to do anything. Let's throw the meal plan out the window. So she was like, okay. And I said, I only want you to do one thing and you must commit to it. If you don't commit to it and you don't do it, then I'm not going to coach you anymore. And I'm ending the coaching arrangement. And she was like, oh, right, okay, well, what is it? I said, I want you to take a picture of everything that you eat before you eat it and then send it to me. Every single thing that goes in your mouth, whether it's a candy bar, whether it's a tin of Diet Coke, whether it's a bacon sandwich, I don't care what it is. Whatever you're going to eat, you must take a photograph of it and send me the photo. And she agreed. And she did. And her entire diet changed. Because once she stopped eating mindlessly, once she had to actually document what she was going to put in her mouth, and she knew that before she ate it, she had to take a photo and send it to me, she stopped eating the way she'd been eating. It was the catalyst to actually change. And then finally she started to be able to change her we just changed her breakfast in the beginning, and we got her to commit to a healthy breakfast. And then it was like, right, once we got that then we changed lunch, and we just went from there. But the first thing that I got her to do was to take a photograph of her meal. Why was this important? Because it started to keep her accountable to what she was eating. So the reason why a lot of the fitness trainers on the internet at the minute are pushing the whole protein thing isn't because protein is, well, one, they really don't understand the process, the metabolic process of building muscle and muscle synthesis and metabolism and synthesis of food in the body is the first thing. So they hear everyone says you need to eat protein to build muscle. So they go, oh, well, that's what I've learned. So that must be true. So I'm just going to say it. It is true. You do need muscle to build muscle. You do need protein to build muscle, but you don't need as much protein as you would think. In fact, you don't need as much food as you would think. And I am on a bloody mission at the minute to try and stop people from eating as much food as they're eating, because I'm so sick of hearing trainers online constantly telling women they need to eat more. This message of women need to eat more to build muscle is such bullshit. It's unbelievable. It's driving me insane. Someone who is overweight already, whether it be 10 pounds or 20 pounds or 5 pounds, does not need to eat more to build muscle. People ask me all the time, did you achieve this muscle growth eating at maintenance or surplus? I'm like, in a deficit. Somebody asked me that the other day on my ButtCamp video. And I made a video of my ass. Oh, funny story to tell you about that in a minute. But I made a video of my ass and put it up. People were like, "Oh, did you achieve this in maintenance or a surplus?" I'm like, in a hard deficit, and they were like, "What? Like, how did you achieve this in a deficit? I thought it wasn't possible to build muscle in a calorie deficit." I was like, "Of course it is." So to go back to your question, you don't need to eat as much protein as people think you need to eat. In fact, if you never tracked your macros again and you only tracked your calories, and you did it for a long time and you continue to train 4 to 5 days a week, the way that I'm teaching you here, you will build a huge amount of muscle. So the thing that I said in the beginning that I say that a lot of people I guess, a lot of trainers aren't confident to say because they haven't trained as many people as I have trained is it really doesn't matter as much as you think it matters. The macros, the protein. You can build muscle on 30 grams of protein a day as long as you're eating enough food to fuel your daily needs. And honestly, that's far less than most of you would ever think. Honestly, it is. I would say my current normal daily calories at the minute are probably 1,400 calories. I would say I eat more on the weekend, but I would say today I have eaten. I'm just trying to do the math in my mind. 400. So far it's 4:30 in the afternoon here. I would say today I have eaten 800 calories. That's it. At 4:30 in the afternoon. I've been awake since 5 and I've eaten 800 calories. Not because I'm trying to eat a few calories, but because I've been busy. I had quite a big breakfast. I had very, very little lunch, and I just had a protein yogurt there, a vegan protein yogurt, because I just did a cardio workout and I felt I needed some blood sugar. I will go home and after this, I'm going to train in the gym when I go home because I don't want to do another workout here. I might record a workout. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to do one more workout after this call, and then I'm going to go home and I'll have dinner, and I'll probably have dinner about 8 o'clock. So I'm not going to eat now between now and dinner. I'm going to train. Oh my God, on an empty stomach. I'm going to train with like just a protein yogurt, right? And I will continue to build muscle and burn fat. I would say, and so people are like, but Kim, are you intentionally trying to eat 1,400 calories a day? In the beginning, I wasn't. In the beginning, I was just really, really, really busy. And I was honestly sometimes only eating 1,000 calories in a day. And but here's the interesting thing. I've inadvertently, by mistake, right, been eating a seriously low amount of calories for a long period of time because I've been so busy recording and, running all these programs. And I've realized I've continued to build muscle. I have so much more muscle now. And then over the last 2 weeks, I put on a bit of body fat because I was in France and I was eating loads of bread and drinking wine. And, and then last week I was training in the gym. So I wasn't doing any cardio, metabolic high burn workouts. And I was eating a lot more. So I put on, I would say maybe I'm at a guess 5 pounds, 6 pounds maybe in the last 2 weeks. But again, I don't weigh myself, so I don't know. But I just know I'm feeling like I have a little more weight on me. But I have like the muscle that I have built in my glutes and the muscle I built in my quads and my shoulders and my back. My husband was taking photos of my back last week. It's insane. And I've literally been eating 1,000 calories, 1,200 calories, 1,400 calories at most. So genuinely, I really want women to understand that the amount of calories that everyone's telling you to eat and the amount that you're supposed to be tracking your macros and obsessing about protein, it's really not true, any of it. You just have to stay consistent at something for a long period of time. And don't worry about the macros too much. Don't worry about the protein. Don't worry about whatever. Just like, say, okay, if you're not used to tracking, which I am, so I know by looking at food how many calories are in that food. So I can hypothesize how much I've been eating because I've been tracking for a hell of a long time. Just track something and just say, well, I'm going to eat 1,400 calories, right? I'm going to try and stick to 1,400 calories for a long period of time because I really want to be lean, right? People give themselves this excuse. They go, 1,400 calories, that is so bad. It's so damaging for your metabolism. No, love, it's not. It's just that you don't want, and no judgment here, okay? No judgment at all. But people who get obsessed about 1,200 calories or 1,400 calories being bad for your metabolism generally are the ones who don't want to be hungry, who don't want to do the hard thing. Is it hard to eat that few calories? Yes, it really is. But if you want to stay super lean and athletic, unfortunately, that is what is necessary. Once your calories go up, which they can, then you could go back up to a more, a different percentage of body fat. Maybe be like, whenever I'm eating normally, if you like, and I'm eating maybe 2,000 calories a day, I'm kind of up around the 20 to 23% body fat. Nothing wrong with that. You might be like, well, Kim, that's fine. That's what I want. I want 23% body fat. I like that. I like that look. Great. But most women don't want to look like that. Most people want to look like me. I'm about 14% body fat. They're like, Kim, what will it take to get there? Train 5 days a week. Do a shit ton of cardio and eat about 1,400 calories a day. And they're like, really? Yeah, that's what it takes. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say you just need to eat more food because that's what the echo chamber tells you. Eating more food is what got you into trouble in the first place. If you want to be lean and athletic, you just need to show up for a fucking long period of time, like 2 years, 3 years. Train for 3 years. Commit to training 3 to 5 times a week for 3 years, preferably 5 if you're only doing 30-minute workouts. 5 times a week, 3 years. Track your calories and eat below maintenance. And then come back to me and tell me your body has not dramatically transformed. Most people come back after 8 weeks and go, this isn't working. I'm like, it's been 8 weeks. 8 weeks. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say. So back to your question. Protein doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. 30 grams, fine. 60, fine. 90, fine. 180, fine. Eat whatever works for you. Just make sure that you are tracking your calories if you're not used to doing it. And, err on the side of caution. Eat less if you can. Do it for a long period of time and see what works. If you find you're losing too much weight, well, by all means, increase them. But it's easier to increase than it is to decrease. That's what I'll tell you. Jennifer Kemp, if I don't stop going off on one, and I'm not going to get through the questions. No, that was Jennifer's question. Apologies. Erica Licardello. How do we find the correct calorie deficiency to use after the challenge is over? I would like to continue the loss in a healthy way, of course. Also, how long do I need to stay in a deficiency, in a deficit, I think she means, to lose the saggy skin and cellulite? I'm looking to change my lifestyle, not go back to eating as before, but I would like to have a drink or a sweet treat every now and then. Erica, see previous answer. Very, but just to add on to it, you can have a sweet treat and whatever every so often, but the balance of your calories has to be low in order to justify those. I had a woman ask me on Instagram on the weekend. She said, how do you stay so lean and how do you drink alcohol and you still stay so lean? And I said, drinking alcohol has nothing to do with putting on body fat. It's calories in, calories out that matters. And she said, yeah, but like whenever I drink, I know that that's the thing that causes me to put on body fat. I said, no, it's not. Scientifically, it's not. Alcohol is calories. And then people say, oh, but it stops your body from burning fat. And no, bullshit, right? Yeah, maybe scientifically there is something that causes causes the liver to not metabolize this. People love to spout all this shit. No, seriously. Unless you're an alcoholic, it's really not going to make that much of a difference. So I said to her, it is not your alcohol. She said, I only have maybe like 2 drinks twice a week. And by the way, when someone says 2 drinks twice a week, that means 6 drinks 3 times a week, just FYI, because people always underestimate. So she said, I only have 2 drinks twice a week. I said, well, if you have 2 drinks twice a week, the balance of your calories is too high the rest of the time. So how do you still enjoy your sweet treats? Well, you have to think about your sweet treats and your alcohol and all that kind of thing as like your cheat meal. Like if you want to maintain this lifestyle and you want to maintain this body, you have to think of it like you're permanently doing a challenge. Your life becomes a permanent challenge. I'm sorry, but it does. There's no other way to look at it. You cannot go back. It's not like you'll get this incredible body and then you can go back to the way you were and go back to eating the way that you ate before. You can't. You can't go back. Because if you go back, you'll go back. So you have to eat below what you need for the majority of the time, 80% of the time. So 80% of the time, I would eat 1,200 calories. Monday to Friday, I eat 1,200 calories a week. 1,200 calories a day. Not a week. That would just be a little insane. I eat 1,200 calories a day, roughly. 1,400 calories a day. Monday to Friday. And that gives me room on the weekend for whatever I want to eat. Pizza. I had a pizza. I shared a pizza. A large pizza with my daughter on Saturday night. We had a beautiful vegan pizza with vegan pepperoni and pineapple and jalapenos and onions and mushrooms. It was delicious. Extra vegan cheese. And I had half a pizza. That was my dinner on Saturday night. I had it guilt-free. Guilt-free. And I think I had 2 beers to wash it down with. And I didn't think, oh, I wonder how many calories in this. Oh, I shouldn't have any more. And if I wanted to have a dessert, I would have had a dessert. I went away on vacation to France and I pegged myself out. Why? Because the majority of the time I'm dieting. Not intentionally, but just because it's a lifestyle. Because I understand that in order to enjoy those things that I want to enjoy and have alcohol, which I love, and have like ice cream, which I enjoy, and have pizza on a Saturday night or Chinese or chips, as we call them, from the Chinese with Chinese. They do my Chinese do this beautiful Chinese gravy. They have a really good vegan menu of vegan Chinese gravy, and I put loads of vinegar on it and salt. Oh my god, I love them. So anyway, if you wanna have stuff like that, the balance of your calories 80% of the time has to be low. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. What was the question again? So how long do you need to stay in a deficit? Forever, Erica. Forever. You can literally, you can slit your wrists now because forever is the answer. You need to stay forever in a deficit, and then you can have your pizza and your alcohol and your cheesecake and your muffins or your peanut butter balls or whatever your devil food is. You can have that occasionally, once or twice a week, 3 times a week maybe, right? But and you will really enjoy them, let me tell you, because the rest of the time you're going to be starving. It's like, that's just the way it is. Angela Bose, I have loved this program more than any other I have done. I love that, Angela. Thank you. I felt the benefits more quickly in terms of how I feel. I've been sick for almost half the challenge and I have put it in the fuck it bucket, but we'll finish the last 2 weeks. Once I'm finished, I want to continue with the 40-30-30 split of macros. And about 1,500 calories felt like more than enough food, but I would like some flexibility rather than following your eating plan. Is there an app you would recommend on how we manage this going forward? So, Angela, first thing I would say is you've said 1,500 calories felt like more than enough food. Okay. You don't, if you're not used to tracking your food and you don't know what your TDEE is, your total daily energy expenditure, and you don't know what your BMR is, don't wingding it, right? Don't be like, oh, I think 1,500 calories is going to be okay. Go to thesculptedvegan.com/macro hyphen, which is the little line calculator. Sculptedvegan.com, our website, /macro hyphen calculator. Download that shit, work out your TDEE, and then figure out what you should be eating. Don't just wing it. So, and I know this is confusing. You're like, but Kim, you just told us to wing it, and now you're telling us not to wing it. Only wing it when you have experience, okay? So, figure out what your deficit macro should be and then kind of take another 20% off. Because here's the other thing. If you're a woman in menopause, you need 200 less calories than you did before just to maintain your current body composition because of how your body creates insulin resistance in your cells. So if your maintenance calories, right? In fact, I should create, Tasha, are you listening to this? Hopefully you are. Tasha, if you tuned out for a minute, come back and listen. Tasha's my PA. I want to create a menopause macro calculator. Okay, let's do that. Menopause macro calculator for women in menopause because they need 200 less calories than regular women. So I'm going to create that. Because you need, women in menopause suffer from insulin resistance naturally because of your body, how your body diverts energy to fat store to create more estrone, which is a weaker form of estrogen. So that's what your body does. And you need to know what your basal metabolic rate is and your TDEE is in order for you to be able to calculate your macros. So that's the first thing. Second thing is there an app that you can do this? Honestly, MyFitnessPal is the best app I find for tracking macros and calories. We have the Sculpted Menopause app and it has a macro calculator in it. But if you're just looking for straight up macro calculation, the MyFitnessPal is the best one. I have the premium version. I've never had the free version, but a lot of people have told me that they have the free version and they've used it. I don't think you can change your macros on it, macro percentages. You can just track your calories. But I know that the free version, I think, maybe they don't even have a free version anymore. I think they maybe made it recently that everyone had to pay. But either way, if you just want to track your macros and calories, MyFitnessPal is it for me. It does it for me. Anne Krebs, Kim, you recently did a reel telling listeners that you need to eat more reference other nutritionists telling listeners you need to eat more to lose weight. Exactly what I was talking about a minute ago. I'm curious what it was or who said what to lead you to that reel. You posted that 99% of people's metabolism isn't messed up. So Anne, and she says, sorry, I heard over the years that if you're in too much of a calorie deficit, it does mess up your metabolism. And I get confused by this. Do you mind talking about this a bit more, as I appreciate your input and I know you come from experience? So what happened was I actually posted the comment on that video that someone had left. So I had made a video previously. I can't remember, or someone posted do you know what it was? I'd posted I think a reel on Instagram, and then people had commented underneath it, and someone had commented and said, "This is not true. Women, I have a damaged metabolism, and need to repair my hormones before I can put on, before I can lose weight." And I was like, so it got me riled up because there are very few cases of a truly damaged metabolism. It's very hard to damage your metabolism. You can slow down your metabolism if you chronically undereat and don't build muscle and don't train. So if you think borderline anorexic. Okay. Someone who's, anorexic or has anorexia quite often just obsessively doesn't eat. But more often than not, they're not really into strength training. They're not really into optimizing their health, right? They have a disorder, a disease, which causes them to not eat. I had a friend who died actually from from organ failure, from having anorexia a few years ago. It was very painful to watch. In fact, she died within 48 hours. She was in work one day and she collapsed. It was awful. But anyway, it's very difficult to damage your metabolism in the long term. You can slow down your metabolism if you don't have muscle tissue and you chronically undereat. But I'm talking way undereat. I'm talking like 600, 800 calories a day for a sustainably long period of time. And that video that I made was not directed at those people. It was directed at the women who are overweight and who cite a damaged metabolism as the reason they can't lose body fat. Because a lot of people make the excuse of having damaged hormones or damaged metabolism. And it comes from a good place. It's not that they're bad, they have bad intent. But what I have learned from 10 years of coaching hundreds of thousands of women in this company is that most women just haven't stuck at something long enough to know if they have a damaged metabolism or not. Because they start a program or they start a diet and they maybe stick at it half-heartedly, maybe even 50% of the time, sometimes even 80% of the time, for maybe 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, even 12 weeks. It's not enough time. If I want someone to come back to me after having stuck with something for 2 years and tell me that it didn't work. And the other thing is, another woman came and said, I coach women who are overweight and they've only been eating 700 calories a day and that's why they can't lose weight. I'm like, I am sorry. Like, have you like someone who's been eating 700 calories for a year or 2 years will not be overweight. It is scientifically impossible because the energy expenditure will be greater than the energy input. So the body will burn fat as an energy source. There is no one came out of, like, if you think, even just take it to the horrors of the concentration camps or people who have been starved, in the past, they did not come out with damaged metabolisms and overweight. Like, certainly damaged metabolisms, but not overweight, right? So someone who's saying I've only been eating 700 calories a day, but they're 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight, unfortunately is lying. And that should be obvious, right? So maybe they tried eating 700 calories for like 3 days, but they haven't been doing it sustainably for a long period of time. And so what I find is people who say, I have a damaged metabolism, is code for I haven't been able to stick to a plan for longer than 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12 weeks. That's why I made the video. And that's who I'm talking to whenever I say your hormones are not damaged. Your metabolism is not damaged. You just need to be patient. It takes far, far, far longer than you would ever want to believe that it takes to reach your goal. And the women who've been with me for a long time in these groups are testament to it. They will tell you, they will say, like, I have been guilty of being so impatient. Like, I see the ones who are showing up every day and they're beasting it and they're doing the cardio and they're following the meal plan. And they're like, I've been eating 1,200 calories a day now for like 4 months and I'm still not skinny. I'm like, what can I tell you? Keep going. It's like, just because you want it to be different doesn't mean that it will be. Just because you feel you deserve more doesn't mean that you do. And I think that this is the really humbling thing about bodybuilding, is that you cannot force the results. You can't make them go any faster. Of course, you can take anabolic steroids, or you could massively overdose on a GLP-1, and that is going to speed things up for sure. It's going to make it easier because you're not going to be hungry all the time. Great. But you can't force muscle to grow any faster than it grows, and you can't force fat to burn any faster than it burns. And I think this is the very humbling thing about bodybuilding. And it gives you a lot of data as to just how long things take. It's the same as building a business. People come to me all the time and they say, I want to build a business. And I remember, like, whenever I started, I was like, I'm going to be a millionaire next year. You're like, no, Kim. I remember making a pact with my friend. Whenever I first started I decided I was going to start an online company. Jack, my youngest, was only just born. And I remember she and we'd tried and we'd, been looking into things, and she wanted to start her online company too. And we whatever. And I remember it came to my birthday. We'd been at it for about 8 months and we hadn't made any money at all. And it was my 35th birthday. And I remember shaking her hand and saying, 6 figures by 36. And she was like, right, 6. She was 2 years older than me. I was like, 6 figures by 36. I'm going to have made 6 figures by the age of 36. Do you think I did? No, absolutely not. I didn't make my first 6 figures until I was 38, I think. But I was determined I was going to make it by 36. It was another 3 years. I didn't make my first million until I was 39. So it took me another 3 years to achieve that goal. Now, imagine if I had given up. And listen, it wasn't for lack of trying. I was up at 3:30 a.m. every morning, sitting at my kitchen table, working from 3:30 to 6:30 because it was the only time I had free away from my kids. So it wasn't for lack of trying. I was trying very, very, very fucking hard to make money, to make this online business successful. But you can't make it go any faster than it goes. Thank God I never gave up. Imagine if I had given up. So I decided I was going to build an online business after Jack was born, and Jack just turned 14. That's when I decided I was going to build an online business. I was going to get into this online world and I was going to build an online business. And I tried and failed and tried and failed. I tried teaching people business. I tried teaching people yoga. I tried teaching people detox. I tried and failed, trying and failing, starting all these different companies until I finally jacked it all in and decided to become a bodybuilder. And then I was like, oh, I'm actually rather good at this. Maybe I could, take everything that I learned in building my online business and I could combine it with this thing called bodybuilding, and I could actually create a program that would work. And that was when it actually worked. But Jack was, so let me think, that was 14 years ago. So what are we now? 2005. So what's that? 2011, I think I started. So that's when I first decided that I was going to be successful online, but I didn't actually make my first million until I was 39, I think, which was 6 years ago. So it's the same as bodybuilding. You can't be frustrated because it doesn't happen in the first 8 weeks or 12 weeks or 6 months or 12 months. It's a long process of building your body and shredding body fat. Yeah, you can get really good gains in the beginning, newbie gains. You can get new muscle growth. You can get, good fat loss. But ultimately, the process of changing yourself, of transformation, which is, I guess, the same as making $1 million and then building, they always say your first $1 million is the hardest to make. And I agree. And then once you get to 3 to 5 million, it's actually easy. Once you've got to 1 million, it's actually relatively easy to go from 1 million to 5 million. Going from 5 million to 10 or 15 or 20 is actually the same process as going from 1 to 5. So it's the same with bodybuilding. Getting started is actually relatively easy, but it's that journey in the middle between finishing ButtCamp here and 8 weeks along, and maybe even finishing Buns and Guns. It's that journey between there and the metaphorical first million. That's the hardest part. But making it a lifestyle, making it something that it becomes part of you, making getting up every day and training a non-negotiable, that takes 3 years. So you have to commit to the process and just know that you're going to have, like me trying and failing to start my online business, you're going to have many failures along the way. You're going to try and fail and try and fail and try and fail. And then one day, boom, you're going to be like, yes, this is just going to be who you are and what you do. But not if you give up. Okay? Not if you give up. Nadine Byrne, building on Anne's question, is there a time when we should clean bulk and then follow it by a shred? No, Nadine, you don't need to clean bulk and you don't need to follow by a shred. You just need to show up every day and train. Choose an amount of calories that is lower than what you need and eat that during the week. And then eat a little more on the weekend and continue to show up and train 5 days a week and be as active as you possibly can. But whenever you're training with me, my workouts have a very high metabolic burn. So you actually don't need to do as much cardio. That's why I love them. Like when I train in the gym, I have to do cardio to stay lean. When I train the way I train with the dumbbells, the way you guys train with me, you don't have to do any cardio. unless you want the extra burn. But for maintenance, you don't have to do any cardio because you get a high fat burn component with it anyway. So there is no good time to bulk and shred. There really isn't. I mean, if you wanted to do an extra hard shred, you could do it before a vacation or something if you needed a little more motivation. But honestly, I just think that everybody should work until they reach their goal, until you can look in the mirror and say, damn, I've made it. Like at the minute I look in the mirror and I say, whew, well done, girl, you did it. Like I love how I look at the minute. I'm lean. I have abs. I have good shoulders. My legs are great. My butt is now lifting and growing every single day from doing these ButtCamp workouts. I am so happy with how I look. So all I have to do is maintain it. So work until you get there. For most people, that's eating less than you're eating and training more than you're training, right? It's very simple, but it just takes a long time. Lisa Rodriguez, I loved the post-workout snack in week 1 with the yogurt and protein powder. I remember in one of the trainings, you stated that low yogurt was low glycemics. It was a high insulin trigger food. That's why it was not in the program. Does putting the protein powder in with the yogurt change that? So no, Lisa, it doesn't. So basically the reason why I never would have included yogurts and that kind of thing on the meal plan before, they're not high on the insulinemic scale. So that's what you're thinking about. So milk, dairy milk is very high on what's called the insulinemic scale. So the insulinemic scale is kind of like the glycemic index scale. Except what it just measures how much insulin is spiked by a certain food. So skimmed milk, interestingly, or skim milk, as you guys call it in America, interestingly, is very high on the insulinemic scale because of the absence of fat. So if you drink skim milk and you're just drinking it in cereal or whatever, it actually can spike insulin levels. So whenever I was creating meal plans before and we weren't focusing just so much on calories and macros, I never would have put things like yogurt or whatever in the programs, mostly because I never eat them myself. I say that and I've just eaten a yogurt now. I'm actually eating a lot more of them recently now that my calories are super low. But I can honestly eat whatever I want now. Whenever your calories are really low, you can honestly just eat whatever you want. It's fantastic. So I would never have put yogurts in the plan because I never used to eat them. And so everybody's loving the plans at the minute. But see the plans that I've created now, they're literally my worst nightmare. See the plans that you guys are eating, I would never eat them, ever. Like they are my worst nightmare come true. See all of the sweet stuff that everybody seems to love. I just don't have a sweet tooth at all. I mean, at all. I have no craving for anything sweet. Maybe one piece of dark chocolate once a week after I've eaten something, or a peanut butter ball occasionally. That's literally it. Zero need to eat anything sweet. The thought of eating something sweet for breakfast, occasionally I'll have, like recently, once I started the GLP-1s, I actually craved a lot more fruit. Never would have eaten fruit before. And so I was actually craving in the morning. I didn't want like a heavier breakfast like tofu. So sometimes I would have like thrown some protein powder into a yogurt and mixed it up and put fruit on top. But honestly, whenever I was eating it, I was like, oh, this is actually so sweet. It's turning my stomach. But it was one of my most popular videos on Instagram. Everybody loved it because it seems that everybody's obsessed with having sweet breakfasts, with having like pancakes and muffins and fucking waffles. And like, it's my worst. See, if you serve me a waffle for breakfast, I would just put, I would hate you. It's like, so I always created the meal plans but each to their own, right? I always created the meal plans that I ate. But then I realized that I'm actually in the minority, right? Very few people are like me. Most people want sweet treats. They want, biscuits and pancakes and waffles and cookies and yogurt. My God, the amount of requests for yogurt that we had. I was like, what is women's obsession with yogurt? It was so shocking to me. So anyway, that's why I started creating different meal plans. It wasn't because I eat them, it was because of demand. So the reason why there wasn't yogurt in any previous meal plans was because if you're going to give me a treat, I'd much rather have I'd rather have a protein shake made into like a mousse or something, rather than like yogurt and fruit. And so, but then I realized that not everyone is me, and I'm actually the minority, not the majority. So I started creating plans for the majority, and that's why yogurt went back in. But no, you're slightly mistaken, and you were almost correct in that yogurt is not high on the insulinemic scale because it has fat in it. Now, a fat-free yogurt would probably be high on the insulinemic scale. But to be honest, when your macros and calories are counted the way they are in this program, that's all that really matters. It doesn't honestly matter if something is high in the insulinemic scale or low in the insulinemic scale or whatever. It as long as you're eating within your calorie and macro allowance, you're going to get the results. That's one other thing I will tell you about me is that I'm not afraid to change my mind or change my stance on something whenever I get more data. And in the beginning, whenever I was, this company is a very direct reflection of me and where I am with my journey. In the beginning, whenever I started bodybuilding, I was absolutely religious about counting my macros and calories and getting my protein in and my supplements and all the rest of it. So that's what I taught because that's all that I knew. But then as the company grew and evolved and I started changing things up and I started changing the way I do things, what I realized was, oh shit, you can actually be a hell of a lot more flexible. And for the first time in my life, I'm not counting anything. Sometimes my protein intake is high during the day, and sometimes I'm sure it's extremely low. Sometimes I'm sure I'm only eating, I would say, maybe 50 grams of protein sometimes at the minute a day. And I don't care. I don't obsess about it. I'm just in a let's suck it and see what happens. And for the last year, almost, certainly 10 months, that's the way I've been eating for the last 10. Well, no, it hasn't, because I was counting my macros in the beginning, but certainly for the last 6 months, that's the way I've been eating. And really, it has not only had no adverse effects on my body, it's actually given me more freedom, more flexibility, and a better body, which is weird. So you're all kind of you're now all getting the benefit of flexible Kim, right? Kim, your flexible friend, is here. And so you're all getting the benefit of this flexibility, which is don't worry about supplements, don't worry about protein, don't worry about carbs, don't worry about whatever. Just count your macros, be flexible, show up, do it for a long time, you know, have a little bit more in the weekend, a little bit less during the week. And I know that isn't probably a strict enough answer for a lot of people, but it's definitely what's worked for me, which is why things are a lot more flexible. Barb Gonzalez, loving the program, and I really enjoyed the meal plan. See, told you. Is the new challenge similar to this one? Yes, 100%. She says, just in case I decide not to join the 4-week, how do you suggest the people who still have quite a lot of fat to lose to go about it? So and she says, I would definitely join Buns and Guns, but I need a solid plan to follow until then. So the good news is, Barb, that Buns and Guns starts 1 week after this one. So you don't need a solid plan to follow until it starts. And if you still have a lot of fat to lose, then you still need to continue to eat in a calorie deficit. You still need to continue to do workouts every day and cardio every day until you reach your goal. It's very simple. You know, people always say, how should I eat after this? Eat exactly as you have in the program. If you've gotten results from eating and training this way, then continue to eat and train this way and your results will continue. If you change how you're eating and training, then your results will change. Sometimes when you say it like that, people are like, duh, right, yeah, of course. I got good results from eating and training this way, so why would I not just continue? Like, why would you not continue to do the thing that's getting you the results? And people are like, oh, but I don't know that I could continue to eat this few calories every day. I'm like, we don't have to eat 1,200 calories every day, but like, could you eat 1,500 and see what happens? Oh, that's very low. What can I tell you? Losing fat is hard, you know? It's like, you want to lose body fat? Anyway, moving on. Laura Nath, what do you think is a realistic body fat percentage goal to maintain for most of the year? Can you share why you became vegan? That's too long to go into, Laura. But why I became vegan, I read a book, The China Study, decided that my health was more important than eating dairy and cheese and stuff. So that's why I went vegan. I would love to say I did it for the animals, but I didn't, which is why I still wear. I only have a vegan diet, but I wear leather and I don't have a vegan lifestyle. What do you think is a realistic body fat percentage to maintain? It depends on how hard you're willing to work. I have about a 14% body fat percentage at the minute. I used to have about an 18% average, 18% average. 18% average was reasonably hard to maintain in terms of I frequently felt hungry. I frequently felt deprived. I had to watch what I ate during the week to give myself a little more maneuver room on the weekend. So during the week, I was perpetually hungry every day. I would say Monday to Friday. I allowed myself like maybe a meal out and a beer and a cheat meal maybe on a Thursday. The rest of the time, I was very strict with what I ate. The weekend, I very rarely counted and was much more relaxed. So it depends on how hard you're willing to work. Maintaining a 14% body fat percentage all year round, which is what I have at the minute, requires 5 high metabolic burn workouts every day, plus being on my feet a lot. So I would do easy 30,000 steps a day, which means I don't have to do cardio. And I probably eat, like I was saying, I would say probably an average of 1,400 calories a day during the week and a little bit more in the weekend. So it depends how hard you're willing to work. Body fat percentage is a reflection of hardship that you're willing to endure. If you want to have a lower percentage of body fat, then you have to do more training, more cardio, and eat less. If you don't mind having a higher percentage of body fat, then you will be able to eat more and move less. It's a direct reflection of how hard you're willing to work and how much you're willing to sacrifice in order to have a really good physical shape. This Q&A is going to be called Kim's Brush with Reality. Kim slaps it up you, gives you a big, massive, fat dose of reality in the Q&A today. What else have we got here? There's quite a few more questions. I'm not going to get through them all. I'll try and rocket through a few more. Asha Marshall, could you speak to external motivators, supports you've had and appreciate, those people you've surrounded yourself with who have helped you lift you up, and perhaps the opposite, those who you've cut out, how you knew to and how you did it? Actually, that's quite a long question to go into. Honestly, I've never had or needed people in my life. I've never trained with anyone in the gym. I've never, apart from training with my trainer, Mark Getty, who I learned an enormous amount from in bodybuilding. I used to train with him 5 days a week. Mark was a great friend to me, still is. We used to wax lyrical about all things bodybuilding. Apart from that, I don't like when I started my company, everyone was against me. My mother was horrified as to what everyone was going to say. Her daughter standing on stage in a thong. Over here, bikini competitions are seen as very trashy. So they're not like, they're very, what we would call very working class. They're not, we're very middle class, darling. My mother, my aunt is president of the golf club. So, and it's like, oh my God, what will the people in the golf club think whenever, Kim is going to stand on stage in a sparkly thong? I was like, I don't actually give a shit what the people in the golf club are going to think because I don't ever see the people in the golf club. So that was hard for my family. My mum never came to see me compete ever, not once. In fact, the only people who ever came to watch me on stage in all of my years of competing, my sister came once. One of my sisters came once, the other one never came. They never even wished me good luck. Like when I was standing on stage in the morning, I never even got a good luck text. My husband came twice. Once the first time I competed, and he hoped it was my last. Then when I told him I was going to do another show, he was horrified. And then he came to see me the last time I competed in the World Championships, and that was it. They never came to see me. They never supported me. They were embarrassed by me. They didn't want me to start the business. I had so much opposition from everyone in my family and my close friend group. People laughed at me. My husband was horrified by what his friends would say. People in Belfast, which is such a small town, like we have tall poppy syndrome over here. They still hate on me, talk about me constantly everywhere I go. You just have to be like this. Ta-da! Like, I don't care. I'm just like, fuck you and fuck you and fuck you and fuck you. I'm like, I'm just like, I'm all out of fucks over here. I'm like, I'm like crying and patting my face with like dollars, it's like using them as Kleenex. I don't care. I never did. Well, I did care in the beginning, but I just put my head down and I was like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, all of you. Sorry, my language is atrocious, but this is just how I talk most days. I was just like, I don't care. I'm going to build this big fucking business. I'm going to make so much money that you're all going to come begging to me, asking me to help. Like you're going to be, I was so defiant. I was just like, I used them being against me as fuel. I was like, I'll show you. So you have to learn to do it despite it anyway. You have to learn that no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to support you. If you are looking for validation from someone in your life, whether it be your husband or your wife or your partner or your mother or your child, if you're looking for their validation, you are on a road to nowhere. You need to decide what you want, decide that you are a big girl and that you can go after it, and then you need to go for it. Do you know the amount of women that write to me and say, I would love to do this, but like, I can't tell my husband. Is there any way I can like put it on another credit card? Is there any way I can send you the money so my husband can't see it? And I'm like, why would you need your husband's permission? Like, oh, my husband won't like it. And like, how does he get to decide what you do with your life? But I get it. Like, I think I was probably like that years ago until I realized that my husband was never coming to save me, ever. He was never going to give me what it was that I wanted for my life. And I just one day woke up and was like, fuck, if I want something, I'm just going to have to go out there and get it and create it. And I stopped caring about what he thought. And the amazing thing is that whenever you forge ahead and you do what's right for you and you start to live your life authentically and for you and with true purpose and passion and determination, the ones that are meant to come with you will come. And if the person closest to you in your life, like your husband or your wife or whoever, leaves you because you decided to do something for you, then they weren't right for you in the first place. And that's the bottom line. And there was a big shift in my relationship with my husband when we both realized that I was now financially independent. And not only was I independent, I was actually paying most of the bills. And so there was a big shift in our relationship when he realized that I did not need him anymore for anything. And that's when that's when he realized that we were together because we were choosing to be together, not because we were dependent on each other. And we had a big bust up a few years ago. We didn't have a bust up, but like there was a big shift in our relationship where he was kind of almost refusing to acknowledge. Wasn't even cognitive, right? He was refusing to acknowledge that I was now the breadwinner in the house, and he was still acting like he was kind of lord and master, and not lord and master, but like the one who was bringing home the bacon. And and we had this big situation where I went to him one day. I was like, I want you to move out. I want to separate for a while. And he was like, what the fuck? What do you mean? I was like, I love you with all my heart, but you're like a fifth child. I can't cope with this anymore. I can't cope with the disrespect. He wasn't being disrespectful to me, but he wasn't respecting what it was that I had built through his actions and through his interactions with me in the relationship. And it was hard to put into words. And he said that was the moment that he realized I didn't need him anymore because I could stay in the house. And we have a big house. We had a housekeeper, chef, weekend housekeeper, 4 kids. And he realized that I could stay on in the house and pay for everything without him. And he said that was a massive shift. And that's actually what broke it for him. That's what broke the pattern of him, having to keep his male ego in place and believe that he was still the king of the house, which is, I think, is a lot of how men believe that they are. And that's a very liberating place to get to. But you don't get there by playing small. You don't get there by pretending that, you don't get there by pushing your dreams aside. If I hadn't decided to stand on stage as a bodybuilder, if I hadn't pushed that forward in my life and decided that that's what I was going to do, I wouldn't be here today. If I had listened to my husband, listened to my mother, listened to my sister, listened to everyone who was embarrassed, I wouldn't be here now. And I would still be living a life that was probably unfulfilled and not as happy as it could be. And that's what happens, Asha, when you listen to other people and you don't listen to your heart. It's hard. You're going to offend people. You're going to hurt them. You're going to have difficult conversations. But you know what? You're here. You're doing the difficult thing. You're showing up every day. You're pushing through. You're doing your cardio. You're doing your training. You're doing it when you don't feel like it. You're doing it hungry. You're doing it tired. You're doing it unmotivated. But yet you're doing it. You're doing the hard thing every day. The more you do the hard thing, the more doing the hard thing becomes what you do and who you are. And you can start doing it in your relationships and in your workplace and in every other aspect of your life. Once you do hard things, you become the kind of person who can do hard things. So bodybuilding becomes a springboard for other areas of your life. And that's certainly what I found, although I've always been able to do hard things. But this really, really made me able to do hard things. So be your own cheerleader. Be your own champion. Get your blinkers on. Don't listen to what people say. When people put you down and say that you shouldn't do it and you look stupid. My husband called me a dick one day. He said to me, you just look like a dick. Whenever I posted a picture on Instagram, I was like, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. Appreciate the support. And he said, oh, I'm sorry. And I said, well, you can't take it back now, but like he tried to get me to stop. I had my blinkers on. I was like, you don't want to be with me? Leave. I don't care. I don't want to be with someone who thinks I look like a dick online. If you want to be with if I'm not making you happy, then go. It takes a lot of courage to be able to say that. But you have to get to that point. You have to say, like, what have I got to lose, really? And I think the biggest thing about me, just to finish, and I went on a bit longer here, but this was kind of philosophical. I think that one of the biggest things about me is I'm not afraid to lose it all. I take risks. I'm not afraid to lose. I'm not afraid. I would go and live in a tiny 2-bed, 2 up, 2 down. I would live on the street if I had to. I would go and work in the local supermarket. I would clean toilets for a living. I have no false modesty. And so as long as you have a skill set that you can get a job, you have no risk. None. No risk whatsoever. If you're able to work, you're able-bodied, you're of working age, and you can exchange your labor for money, you have zero risk in your life. And anything else you tell yourself is a lie. So, like, what are you waiting for? We're not young, girls. We're not young anymore. Keep kicking the desk. We're getting old here. You've limited time left. What are you waiting for? Get out and do it. Smash the shit out of the rest of your life. You know, we've only got a few good years left in us, some of us. What are you waiting for? Go do it. Put the blinkers on. Screw them. Who cares what they say? Do this. So I sometimes do that with my husband now. If he ever like makes a dig at me, I'm just like this. I go, and I turn around and I go, it's like putting my lipstick on. And he's like, "For fuck's sake." I'm like, no, Ryan, don't fucking do that. Fuck you. Don't do that. Don't speak to me like that. Don't speak to me like that. It's incredible what happens when you stand up for yourself. You realize that actually you could have stood up for yourself all along and nothing bad would have happened. Okay, I'm sorry I didn't get through all the questions. Hopefully you guys find this useful. Thank you so much for being here. This was awesome. I'm really hoping I'm going to see loads of you in Buns and Guns. Although we're still at ButtCamp, my brain has now shifted to Buns and Guns. And the theme of Buns and Guns is purple. No more pink. Well, there might be a bit of pink because I think I'm going to run out of purples. I've spent £750 today on new workout gear for Buns and Guns. That is the level of commitment, girls, that I go to for you. Level of commitment to change the theme. And now I see all the cameras come on at the end. Nice to see you all. Sending you all hugs and kisses. Have an awesome week 7. We're nearly at the finish line. Keep going. Stay strong. Don't break the diet. The end is in sight. So you're 80% there. The temptation is to go, oh, I'm nearly there. I'll just have this thing. Or I'll just have this thing because you're so excited about the end. Keep the excitement. Contain it. Take a big deep breath. Hold on to it. See it through. Okay? You're not finished till you're finished. See it through. Don't be impatient. I know what it's like. I've been there. See it through. I promise you won't regret it. All the hearts are flying. I don't know how this is happening, but I'm really enjoying all these animated hearts. They're wonderful. Okay. Love you all so much. Thanks for being here. And I'll see you all next week for, I was going to say our final Q&A, but I'll probably do one the following Monday once the program ends as well. And yeah, see you all next week. Okay. Love you all. Okay. Bye.